And then did you watch the Fernando Mendoza interview from NBC last week?
NBC?
Yeah.
No.
Hoosier Huddle tweeted it out. I got around, like I watched it today. Like it. First of all, we're completely burying the lead of this interview. The fact that like Fernando and Alberto in 6th grade, and so I guess Alberto is in 5th grade, the two of them are gathering mangoes from their backyard and their neighbor's backyard and going door to door selling mangoes. What a fucking story.
You guys are grinders. When he wins the Heisman, they're gonna do a whole piece on that.
This guy has the grit, mentality, work ethic, just to go door to door at that age is
the story, the name, the swagger. It's Hollywood, baby. You know, this guy
really is.
He's so marketable. It's awesome. Can't wait to see how he plays this year and what the future holds for him.
But that interview was with Nicole Auerbach, and it got into a lot of stuff. Basically, he wanted to leave Cal in search of NFL development. That's nothing new. That's stuff we knew. Talked about how much having Alberto there helped. The other really interesting thing that came out of the interview was that they asked him, because obviously he's from Miami, did he want to play for Miami? And he said that Miami was like his dream school. But when push came to shove, like Miami's season ended after Indiana's season, and like it didn't even. No, Miami had a late bowl game, so they were still in bowl prep when Indiana's season was over, and he didn't even get to that point with Miami.
Interesting.
Maybe a little Luke Fahey foreshadowing. I don't want to step on what we're going to talk about later.
Funny because Georgia was after him, and Georgia lost their quarterback to Miami. So it's kind of a
right?
little love triangle we got going on between Indiana, Miami, and Georgia. And if you were to tell me 2 years ago that Indiana would be in a recruiting love triangle with Miami and Georgia, I would have called you crazy. But yet here we are. Just doing
we're here casually
doing on Tuesdays at 7 Central. And by the way, I saw Fat Boys comment how we gotta go live more than once a week. During the season, we will be going multiple times a week. So look forward to that. You know, we say there is no off season. That's why we do one every week. You know, we find things to talk about, and we're able to build out a 2-hour live show in the off season every week, which I think is awesome. But yeah, we'll definitely start going multiple times a week, and possibly call-in show, possibly, so we could hear John's voice specifically for that.
We are working towards the call-in show, but a couple more Mendoza takeaways. He said he was grateful for the opportunity to play at Indiana. He talked about having a job to do, and that's to get Indiana back to the college football playoff. That is something that he did not shy away from in this interview at all. When the interview ended, I was like, do I run through a wall? I literally got up and started running, and then I was like, well, I can't run through a wall in this room right now. So then I just grabbed there's like these Bowflex weights, the weights where you like twist to get I put it at the 52s, and I just started walking around like doing fireman's carries.
Yeah. I mean, we're going back to the playoff. I'm just concerned of which seed we're gonna be. Are we gonna be hosting a bowl game like we would have last year? So we'll see where we end up. Tougher schedule, so we'll see if we end with 1 or 2 losses or 0 losses. We'll see. But I fully anticipate winning 10 games and going to the playoff again.
He called Chandler Whitmer a blessing to the quarterback room. He was asked if he took Alberto's spot, and he said no, because before the portal season started, Alberto was told that they were going to bring somebody in to – he went very far to say like no job is safe and everybody's competing every day and all this stuff, but somebody was going to be brought in to be the one. So if it was going to be anybody random, may as well be Fernando. But he also made the mention that 60% of starting quarterbacks at some point in their career transferred, which who knows? But he talked about kind of it being the perfect scenario of like coming in, developing for a year, and then like handing the keys off to Alberto.
Yeah, I mean, transfers have always been a big thing, and especially at the quarterback position, well before the portal era. As you know, Troy Aikman was at Oklahoma before UCLA. That was a really big deal, considering one of the first, big time transfers at that position. There's plenty other since then. because it seemed to really work out for Troy being the first overall pick after transferring schools. So, yeah, it's a trend that will always was and always will be. Quarterbacks transferring schools. That's like the one position where if a quarterback's transferring, it's I don't see it. There is zero red flags in doing that. I'd say other positions you could question it. Quarterback is one of those positions where like, yeah, you find a place that wants you and wants you to get PT. Because that's just how you get to the league. You can't get to the league unless you're Matt Castle, who is probably the only guy to not get taken college and make it to the NFL because he was Matt Leinart's backup. That's the only scenario where you can make it to the league.
I'd have to fact check you on that. That might be a stat correction. Tim
What?
Boyle has a lot to say about that.
What's the stat correction?
I don't know how much PT Tim Boyle got in college, but no, back to Fernando. He was asked.
That's just good networking, you know. Be friend Aaron Rodgers, like, you know.
Speaking of Cal, right?
Yeah, it always comes full circle. It really does.
It really does. Fernando was asked about his recruiting process, essentially Cal versus Yale, and he said if he was at Yale, he might not be playing football anymore. He might be into banking or whatever people at Yale do. It's basically how he answered that question, which I thought was pretty funny.
So he's smart, which we already knew, but
oh, he's incredibly intelligent, and you could tell he was a little nervous at the beginning of this interview. Like it took him a little bit to warm up. But when he started talking about how proud he is of his Cuban heritage and like the risk his grandparents took and likened it to the risk he took leaving Cal, like you could kind of tell he like came into his own as the interview went on. And like by the end of the interview, you're like, is there 30 more minutes of this guy speaking? Like, can you just leave the camera rolling and follow him out or something? Like it honestly, watching that interview brought me back to the Pat Coogan quote where he was like, this guy just looks you in the eyes when he's in the huddle. Like, I felt like I was in the huddle with Fernando for the first 15 minutes of that interview. It was very intense eye contact.
The Mendoza family for generations has been betting on themselves, and Fernando's just the next phase of that. Alberto after that.
But yeah, that was when we got the Mango story, which was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Talked about how his parents were both athletic. His dad was like did crew. He was on the rowing team. He rowed at Brown. His mom played tennis at Miami. His mom is the athletic one. I believe his mom also has multiple sclerosis. But he said she's the rock of their life. Him and Alberto talk to her multiple times a day. I think he said like 4 times a day. And it really helps to recharge them. So family, obviously super important to those guys. And then he also talked about Indiana being the first place where he was the top dog in the QB room to start off, which is a really interesting way to hear him talk about his career. He talked about how horrible he was at football to start off, and that it was really the encouragement from his parents and his mom that basically say, like, if you really want to play quarterback, play quarterback. But he said his football idol was Tom Brady, and he talked about like his reps at Cal when he was first starting, like when he's getting his 4 to 6 to 10 reps. Like he's like, I would think about them all day. Like those reps were my Super Bowl, and he's like, my work ethic is going to compound whatever I'm doing, and you know, that's how you see the person you have today. It's somebody who worked their ass off to get there. And you take that mentality and you mix that with Curt Cignetti, and it's like, yeah, good things are about to happen. Like the reason why I was so fired up at the end of the interview is because Fernando didn't mince words at all. He's like, I'm searching for double-digit wins. That's the goal.
Yeah.
He wants double-digit wins and a college football playoff appearance.
You've been cooking. I want to circle it back. I would love to run the numbers on professional athletes whose moms played collegiate sports, because I swear it's like close to 100%. It's insane. It's absolutely bonkers. All your athleticism comes from your mom's side. Swear, it's how it goes. If you don't have an athletic mom, tough. You're not going D1. You're not going league. That's just how it be. I would love to run a study on that. I would love the time and energy and resources to do that. Because I think it's closer to 100% than probably people would think. It's definitely. I'm not saying it's probably like 50, but still, that's an eyebrow raising number if that were to come out.
I was gonna say it's tennis specifically, I remember that being like a huge selling point for Trey Lance, was that like his parents played tennis, so his footwork had to be good. I was like, I'm not sure how that translates through like from, but I understand the thinking, but I was like, I'm not sure if if that's exactly it. But Abel said, I unknowingly sat next to both his grandmothers during spring game. I spoke to his Cuban grandmother mostly. I have a photo with them both as well. That's awesome.
Very cool.
They were so excited that someone would want to take photos with them. I got that's awesome.
It's a great community, man. The IU community. I feel
I
like
love the IU community. I miss Bloomington so much. I will be out there for at least one game this year. That's a promise.
Yeah, it seems like Abel's bringing up how his grandmother was an athlete. She was also a swimmer, does rowing. His dad rowed. So that's where the height comes in. You know, rowing, swimmer, those are tall people sports. They are. They're tall people sports. They are. You have to be at least 6'3" to be an Olympic swimmer. I probably wrong. You could probably find one that's less than that, but 6 foot at least.
No, I'm with you. I'm tracking.
Ryan Lochte might have been one of those small guys, but he's a different breed.
Yes. Damn. That's crazy. Any closing thoughts on Mendoza?
Heisman campaign. It's been in the works since February. I've been drumming it up. Everyone's stealing my whole flow. Putting him first round, like I've been saying since February, and I'm not going to get any credit for it, but just remember I was the original here. I was the one saying this before anyone else. Just want that known on the record.
I'm with you. I support